This is the largest animal ever hunted in the challenge. Check out this bull's heart. It's bigger than my face. It's so fresh, you could eat it raw. The texture alone shows it's top quality. No seasoning needed, just dip the meat in boiling water for a few seconds, and I promise everyone will love it. How did he pull it off? Let's see. On day 29, Roland is busy hunting and shoots a bull. Even though they were 50 meters apart, the arrow hit the bull hard. Roland was beyond excited. Now I just need to wait for the bull to drop. It won't go far, so I can follow it slowly. The bull is resting there. I expected it to faint from blood loss, but it managed to get up and walk. Roland fears the blood will draw bears. Cleaning and processing the bull will be time-consuming, and he doesn't want to delay any further. Can only take the knife and risk rushing forward, although it is said that the cow has lost blood and is dizzy, but if it is pushed up, Roland can't bear it. You can only sneak around the back and sneak attack and run to a safe place with a stab. Roland repeated the operation several times. The bull finally fell to the ground. Roland is ecstatic. No other contestant has ever hunted a bull. Armed with only a sword and a knife, he brought down the bull. If all goes well, he'll wake up to the aroma of fresh meat daily. The thought of it brings him comfort. Roland smiled, hoping everyone could witness his success. She imagined spending the prize money, but knew it was too soon to celebrate. Handling such a big bull is tough. You'll have to move back to the shelter before it gets dark. Roland calmed down when he thought about it, and he had to take out the internal organs of the cow first. There's so much meat in this body, I don't know if I'll be able to get it before dark anyway. Roland is going to eat his heart tonight. She could still feel her muscles throbbing. It's no problem to eat it raw. Roland felt that it tasted good, but it was better to take it home and bake it better. If she wasn't worried about bears, she would have roasted it on the spot. Instead, she had to pack some and head back to camp. This should last for a bit. The bull can be processed tomorrow. Hopefully, bears won't drag it away overnight. Meanwhile, Amos discovered bear droppings around his area, making him feel quite uneasy. He was terrified the bear might break into his shelter and didn't feel capable of scaring it off. Having too much fish seemed to be a problem. He had to repair his door. While it might not completely stop a bear, at least it would buy him some reaction time. It still felt a bit flimsy. He hoped the bear wouldn't come back at night. Now, he went to check on the fishing net. No one would mind having extra meat, but catching more fish was crucial. Unfortunately, when he got to the shore, the net was missing. He felt quite disheartened. With time still left in the challenge, catching enough fish without the net would be tough. Moreover, food would become scarcer as winter approached. Amos felt he might have to declare defeat early. Now, let's check on Roland. At dawn, he resumed processing the bull, wondering if the bear had visited. If it was still around, he wouldn't mind hunting the bear for food. He was very anxious on the way. If the meat was eaten, he'd be mad enough to quit if the meat was gone. He hurried back along yesterday's path, seeing no signs of the bear. When he reached the bull, he finally felt relieved. Although there were some bite marks on the stomach, the bull was still mostly intact. He had to hurry and move the meat back to the shelter. Suddenly, he felt something approaching. Roland, on high alert, grabbed his bow and arrow, fearing a bear might charge. He didn't have much time to process the bull. The bull's hide could serve as a blanket. There was more meat than he expected. The 4 legs alone could last him a month. Roland found the work exhausting and still had to carry it back later. He craved the tenderloin raw. It would be incredible. He wished his family could join him. No one could resist such a treat. Just cutting out the meat took a lot of time. He had to stay alert to his surroundings. Any noise made him extremely nervous. He had to leave the meat aside for now. Birds kept swooping in to steal it. Roland couldn't stop them, so he just sped up. After a full day's work, he finally finished with the bull. He covered it with the hide, hoping it would protect the meat. Do you think Roland will run into trouble? Now, let's see how Mark is doing. He hung up the leftover fish and still had plenty of smoked meat in his shelter. Mark felt pretty confident. At least he doesn't have to worry about shelter or food, just the bears. He really misses his son. He wonders how his son is doing. Mark sings and dances in his shelter, hoping it will lift his spirits. And it does work. He feels better. He decides to check the gill net outside. He used to catch fish every day, but as time goes on, the catches have become fewer. Today, he caught nothing. Even though he has a good amount of fish left, the challenge is far from over. Relying solely on these won't be enough. Continuing like this isn't a solution. He needs to hunt other animals. Mark plans to lower the gill net a bit more. He hopes this will help him catch fish. So far, he hasn't faced major difficulties. It's easier than his military days. He's sure he can finish the challenge, but even though he's set the gill net, he's unsure if it'll work. He's quite anxious, hoping for a good catch tomorrow. It's the 31st day of the challenge. Jillian's mood is sour. Fishing is tougher than expected. He plans to use the barrel he found yesterday. He plans to make a raft to reach deeper waters, thinking it will help him catch fish. He heads to the shore to build the raft. First, he builds the frame, unsure if it's right, but following his best guess. He's worried that after all this time and effort, he might not catch a single fish. He fears he might break down and cry. He isn't greedy. 1 fish a week would suffice. He's already gathered plenty of wood. If the sides are balanced, it should work. Next, he secures the barrel in the center. However, the waves are so large that he's worried about falling into the water. Jillian prefers to risk fishing in deeper waters than quit due to hunger. He's quite confident in the raft. After much effort, he completes the raft, but is unsure how it will fare in the water. He hopes for the best. It's the 32nd day of the challenge. Mark hasn't had a proper wash in ages. He plans to boil water and use his socks as a towel. Bathing not only refreshes the body, but also boosts morale. Since arriving, he's shed a lot of weight. He thinks if he stays here for 100 days, he'll be nothing but skin and bones. He jokes that this is the best weight loss plan, better than any diet. After tidying up, Mark gets to work. He first checks on the secondary king and feels confident he's managed it well. Later, he can gather some food from the fields. There's plenty of edible stuff around, but he just enjoyed a bit of large game. Suddenly, he spots fresh bear droppings, likely from last night. So, in this wilderness, there's no shortage of food. It all comes down to your hunting skills. Mark hasn't attempted bow hunting bears yet, but he hopes to try. If stored properly, a bear's meat could last through the challenge. He decides to check on the fishing net. For now, he's counting on fish to keep him fed, but the net's lack of success is really getting him down. He really needs to find other food sources. Catching fish will be even harder in winter. He had planned to save dried fish for later. Now, he has to return and scavenge for food. No one anticipated the fish vanishing. Mark is in a full-blown panic. Now, he just needs to cover it. He's worried the branches might break and he could get seriously injured. Honestly, the view from up there is fantastic. He can watch the surroundings, and if the bear shows up, he'll jab it in the rear. Next, he surveys the nearby bridge. The temperature is tolerable. The strong wind is causing him a headache, and the bridge is nearly driving him mad. If this keeps up, it will seriously affect my survival here. I really hope the wind dies down a bit. The most important thing now is to get the shelter built. Winter is approaching fast, and there's not much time left. Chopping and hauling wood daily is draining. I wouldn't advise anyone to follow his method. If Joe had built a smaller shelter, he could have started stockpiling supplies already. I'm curious to see how much he can finish before the challenge ends. Based on his progress, it seems it'll take about 10 more days to finish. Joe feels like he messed up. Given his current energy levels, finishing the shelter before winter won't leave much time to gather supply. Completing daytime tasks feels impossible now. He just wants to finish the shelter before leaving, but he's already exhausted from moving and cutting wood. The worst part is that it started raining again, making the construction even harder. He can only go back to the shelter to rest. After each day's work, he needs a long rest, but there's still a mountain of tasks. The pressure of surviving in the wilderness keeps growing. Suddenly, he thought he heard a noise. The top was leaking, and Joe saw the hole was growing. At this rate, even if the shelter is built, the top won't keep it dry inside. Now he doesn't know what to do. If he gets wet and it freezes, staying warm with just a fire will be tough. Water droplets dotted his sleeping bag, and he was anxious to dry it quickly. If it gets soaked, he's done for. He did his best to cover and dry it, hoping to survive the rain. If not, he might have to quit the challenge. The rain persisted until nightfall, leaving the shelter damp and worsening Joe's temper. He was so frustrated he almost tore the top apart. Reaching the 33rd day had been tough, and Joe was utterly exhausted. Life is just too tough right now. The resting place is a mess, wet everywhere, and he has no mood to build the shelter. He can only hang up the sleeping bag to dry, hoping for a dry environment tonight. Looking at the unfinished shelter, his emotions are mixed. If he can't complete the shelter and move in today, he might just quit and go home. So, he decides to put up the top right away. This way, he won't have to worry about water getting in. He'll gather enough wood later to finish the walls. Today, he's set on moving in. He secures the waterproof cloth tightly, hoping the wind won't wake him at night. The shelter looks decent, but it's unclear when it will be fully ready. For now, he'll keep building as much as he can. Joe's been working non-stop, with no time for food. I'm really worried he might faint from exhaustion. Every contestant is eerily quiet. Who knows what they are thinking? It's already starting to snow outside. It's day 34 of the challenge. The snow-covered landscape significantly boosts his spirits. It's almost like entering a fairy tale. Once winter hits, finding food will be tougher. He used to gather gingerberries, but now it's nearly impossible. With snow blanketing everything, finding anything is tough. The biggest hassle is drying firewood daily, which takes a lot of time and effort. The upside is that animal tracks are now easy to spot, making trap setup more efficient. As he walks, he notices many rabbit tracks and feels more confident about his traps. Catching one rabbit daily, he could extend his stay. Confident in his chances, he decides to invest more time in setting up traps. He's a bit worried his body might give out since it's been ages since his last decent meal. Now, let's see how Roland is doing. Since he hunted the bull, he's been eating meat daily or heading to get more. This is the right way to survive in the wild. Roland wishes he could share the meat with the other contestants. He finds it delicious, even without seasoning. Roland plans to pack up the meat today. He doesn't want other animals to steal it. He was in a pretty good mood initially, but then he saw bear tracks in the snow heading towards his meat. Roland grabs his bow and arrow, ready to defend. His worst fear has come true. The bear has devoured most of the bull's head. Fortunately, the nearby meat remains untouched. Roland now just wants to quickly move the meat back. He doesn't want the bear to eat it all. It's a massive task. Even moving one leg is tiring. He'll have to make 7 or 8 trips. And now, light snow is starting to fall. The best storage place besides outside is his stomach. He'll just eat meat for the next few days. The camera shifts to Amos. He thinks the weather is quite nice, but getting food has become much harder. He plans to use paracord to weave another net. Tomorrow is his daughter's birthday, and he longs to be with her. Winning the prize would mean a better life for her. He plans to make up for her birthday with a big gift when he returns. Once the net is ready, he heads to the shore, hoping to catch enough fish before the lake freezes. He wishes he could hunt large animals. It's now the 35th day of the challenge. Jillian intends to fish at sea. He's much thinner than when he arrived. The waves are small now. He worries the raft might capsize in the freezing water. He pushes it out and attempts to sit on it. The result is better than he expected, but paddling is extremely hard. The main issue is he can't reach the deep water. The raft nearly capsized, forcing him back to shore to rest. After all the effort he put into it, Jillian decides to gather berries instead, feeling more certain with each thought. It's also Amos's child's birthday today. He hopes it brings him good luck. It's time to check on the net. Surviving in such a cold environment is really tough. Every action saps your warmth, and daily meat is essential for survival. He spots fish in the net from afar. Amos is in a great mood. The fish are bigger than he expected. As long as he keeps this up, he's confident about finishing the challenge. The focus moves to Roland. Knowing a bear is close by, he's been gorging on meat daily to keep it from the bear. Suddenly, he spotted fresh bear tracks outside. Now Roland just wants to find it and teach it a lesson. Following the tracks, he indeed sees the black snow. Do you think Roland can hunt it? Let's wait and see.